Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On this happy day, I would like to congratulate His Highness the Emir Sheikh Jabir Al-Ahmed Al-Jabir Sabah, His Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Sheikh Saeed Al-Abdullah Salim Sabah, the Government of Kuwait, KTV2 viewers and all Kuwaiti citizens and residents on the happy occasion of Kuwait's 39th National Day and the 9th Liberation Day. Thanks to Almighty Allah, Kuwait was liberated years ago. However, 9 years after the universally condemned invasion of Kuwait, more than 600 Kuwaiti and other prisoners of war are still held by the Iraqi regime that refuses to release any useful information about them. We were all happy because we got liberated, but this happiness was not complete because of the detention of our POWs. We realized that we had to pay bills for our work, but we can't accept that our POWs to be the price. We want them back by any means, and if they are not live, God forbids, we have the right to know. The damage was so great on our beloved country, but the damage in our hearts is greater. And how can we stop our suffering of the unknown destiny of our POWs? Years are passing and our hopes are still as they are. Last Thursday, again many people went to Al-Mutla' near the Iraqi borders to be part of the public festival for the POW relatives and who is not related to our POWs in Kuwait. As I said, we are all suffering, and the families and friends of the POWs go over many different feelings. To overcome the negative effects of losing the economic and emotional support of the families of the POWs, and to help ourselves as we are forced to wait for the sun of freedom that won't be complete without our POWs. With us tonight as we try to do something for our POWs is Dr. Marwan Mtawa. He's a clinical psychologist, and also with us is Dr. Jassim Haji, a consultant of child psychology. I would like to welcome you with us, gentlemen, our show tonight.
Thank you very much, Abdullah.
It's my pleasure to be with you tonight and with our dear viewers live on air from KTV2 in the program tonight, The Sun of Freedom. If you'd like to participate with us tonight as we're going to talk tonight about the POWs, you can call us on our direct phone number. You can see it on the screen. It's 2412602, the direct phone number 2412602. Or maybe the ministry's number, that is 2415300. This is 2415300, or the extension number is 34000. We'd like to hear from you if you'd like to participate, ask our doctors, or maybe just to participate in this happy day, which we all try to remember our POWs in here. Now, again, gentlemen, Dr. Marwan Mtawa and Dr. Jassim Haji, I'd like to welcome you, and maybe I can start with my questions. The first question that comes to my mind, we know that Kuwait was liberated in 1991. But the problem of the POW started before that, in 1990, on the 2nd of August. From the first day, people started to disappear. And later on, a lot of them did not come back. Now, some of them, they came back during the invasion and after the liberation, but some of them did not come till today. I wonder, what are the immediate feelings of the families of those POWs at that time, during the invasion time?
I think before we talk about the immediate psychological and social negative effects of being a POW, let us have a very short idea, very small idea, what kind of the punishment or procedures or tortures done by our POW by the Iraqi regime during the invasion. You know, one of the main things the Iraqi used to do with our POWs, they use a very inhumane tortures with our POW, and one of the main tortures is they try to create a drug addicts among our POWs.
Yes.
I mean, they give them heroin injections.
So they will have control over them.
So the POWs will have, some of our POWs will have a negative withdrawal symptoms after a couple of days, and he suffer, and they cut the heroin from him in order to have certain negative punishment among our POW. Yeah. Some of them had is the victim of sexual harassment and sexual rape, and there are many things had done with our POWs. So the psychological and the negative impacts among themselves, the POW, and among their families, it was a tremendous. Many families lose the sense of security, lose the sense of emotional support. Imagine a family who lose their father or their mother. You know,
the support of the family.
Yeah. By the way, among our POWs now, 8 women
Right.
8 women still now considered to be a POWs. And imagine the kind of emotional trauma, and I call it emotional traumatic experience among their families, because just all of a sudden the Iraqi regime take our peoples from the street, from the mosque.
Most of them were civilians, right?
Most of them civilian,
yes,
and very innocent, and all of a sudden the family, they lose their father or their brothers or their sisters, and some of them released after 2 weeks or 2 months. They had great negative psychological effects, and during this period, when the family lose their POWs, most of the families reported to us in the psychiatric clinic, they had sleep disturbance, lack of appetite among most of the families, lack of concentration, a very severe depressive episode.
We can only imagine, I mean, what those families of the POWs felt. Dr. Jassim, maybe you could help us or add to our information. Now, some families, their sons, the POWs, they came back. Some of them, they did not. Now, we have now in the same place, some neighbors, their sons came back, and with other families, still their sons did not come back. What do you think? I mean, how can you describe their feelings, those families, without having their sons coming back?
Well, I think they have mixed feelings. Sometimes we have something called survivor guilt. Some of those POWs who have been returned home, some of them might develop survival guilt that I came back, how about my neighbor?
Yes.
And this would add more agony and will add more psychological problems and emotional stress to those POWs. But I would like to share something based on my own experience with children. After invasion, right after invasion, yes, I asked children to draw pictures, because I would like to get deeper inside into yes, their emotional status.
They would reflect their feelings through the drawings.
It's a kind of projection techniques. Yet a child had to draw, his father was in the middle, and surrounding him so many soldiers, okay, and all the blood is coming from his body, and he's laying. This is a psychological torture. Can you imagine a child with this kind of traumatic picture? This picture is intrusive, and the worst part of it, the feeling of helplessness. The child is being helpless because he cannot do anything to help his
and
father.
We're talking definitely about, what, 5, 6 years old, maybe, kids.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Marwan, we're sure that many of the POWs, they have children here and families. And many of them, they were, as we said at the beginning, they were the backbones of their families. Now, today, after 9 or maybe, 9 days, 9 years of the liberation and 10 years maybe of the detention of the POWs, what about their families? I mean, these days, how do they feel after all these years? Did they forget them? Are they doing better? Are they settled down?
Brother, I'll give you a case, a real case who I saw in my clinic. It's a child, 13 or 14 years old. Her father is a POW. The problem of this case, she refused to eat. Only 1 meal a day.
When was that?
That's 2-3 years ago.
2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so many years after the detention of her father.
She refused to eat. She put her hand near the fire in order to suffer the heat of the fire.
Strange.
Yes.
Why is that?
She said to me, I want to feel the suffering of my father. I know my father now he is
captured in Iraq,
captured by the Iraqis. He is feeling not good. I want to feel his pain.
She wants to share maybe
so she began to punish herself by burning herself. And it's real burning.
She was doing this maybe unconsciously, right?
Sometimes unconsciously, sometimes consciously. She refused to attend any ceremony. in any kind, because she had a feeling of guilt. Why I am so happy?
Yeah, this is what Dr. Jassim just mentioned, maybe.
Why I'm so
feel of
happy
guilt.
and my father is not happy.
I see.
In the cold weather now, for example, she said, my father now, he feel cold. She tried to sleep without any covers, without any things, to feel the cold weather. At the last day of the last sessions, I remember, she told me, please, Dr. Marwan, hit me in your car.
My goodness.
I want to die. I said to her, why you want to die? I said, perhaps my father is not living anymore. He's dying now. So I want to be in his grave. I want to, my soul, live with his soul, identify with his soul. It is a very strange case, and by the way, it's her age 14 or now 15 years old.
Dr. Jassim, maybe, I mean, you could help us since you're a specialist with children, child psychology. How can we deal, I mean, not particularly with this case, because I'm sure Dr. Marwan did his best at that time, but with those children, I mean, who have this feel of guilt, I mean, how can we help them? What should they do, I mean, or their families to help them overcome such a thing?
Well, the most important part here, Abdullah, it's we are talking about uncertainty.
Yes.
We are talking about here grief in limbo. Grief in limbo, it's a hard reaction, a depression, okay, and emotional stress. We are talking about uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen next. And children are going through growth. They are growing and growing, and they are going through the developmental stage. In these developmental stages, they are having emotional trauma and psychological trauma and depression. And you know, it's very hard for them because they will face psychological disorder in the future, like depression and conduct disorder and lack of concentration and so many other
negative Well, Dr. Jassim, we all share our families, the families of POWs, these feelings. And also, maybe I think we have a pre-recorded report here, interview prepared by our director, about the concerns of people regarding our POWs. So maybe if we can watch it together with our dear viewers.
What do you think of the media coverage on our POWs?
Here in Kuwait, it's more than enough. But internationally, it's need more coverage. Why don't we put our case in satellite channels like CNN, BBC, for example?
Since your uncle is a POW, what can you do to help him out?
Well, what can I do? But suffering and waiting for him. All that I can do is I hope that my uncle and all of the POWs will come back as soon as possible they can.
It's not reasonable to keep any person such a long period as POW. In fact, it's not God's plan to keep anybody as a prisoner.
Do you think there's enough media coverage for the POWs in the region?
In fact, no, actually no. I think sometimes they are ignored. They are